Hey, cats, Musings of a Joe Schmo, Wednesday morning. We're going to cover a whole bunch of bedriddens with bins news, even though it's only Wednesday. We'll cover, cringe Jean-Pierre and some California budget shortfalls and some California racisms. All right? But you know the deal. You want to hit? Here you go.
That son of a bitch, Putin, makes me mad.
She's steady asking me if my soul is safe. Yeah, it's in the deep freezer, it's gonna stay that way. I don't give a fuck if you're mad, you can die mad. I don't give a fuck.
Good morning, savages. Like I said, we're going to start off with some bedriddens with bins news. So I'm sure many of you have already heard about the classified docs found in his old office. It turns out that it's all intel on Iran, the UK, and the old Ukraines, right? And we know about the Ukraines dealings. We know about Burisma, the quid pro quo, where he's threatening to withhold $1 billion. So on and so forth, right? This absolute corruption. You've seen what happened at Mar-a-Lago, but it doesn't seem like anything's going to happen here, right? After 5+ years, he's just surprised that what he took is still where he put it, right? Absolutely cray, man. He just can't imagine how it got there. But it's okay. Because cooperation, you know what I'm saying? He's apparently, now cooperating 5 years after the fact with, the Department of Justice and the archives, right? Hilarious. This dude is just absolutely corrupt, and it's just one thing after another, right? So moving on to the next portion of the bedriddens here. So the Biden border visit, absolute photo op, right? El Paso actually cleaned itself up in a 24-hour period, going to the lengths of arresting homeless people for paraphernalia, old charges, warrants and whatnot, anything to basically, get people out of the way for Biden to walk around and hang out and pose in front of the only areas that has Trump's wall, right? It seemed like that may have been the only area that he was comfortable at. His Twitter went on to say that this immigration thing didn't happen overnight, which we know it did. Trump probably had the most secure border in our lifetimes, and then on top of that, he come in and immediately started signing executive orders undoing what Trump had put in place, and we saw an immediate buildup of packs of immigrants on the border just waiting for old Bidens, right, to take office and sign these orders. And then they just immediately started pouring through. Rough estimates are around 5 million crossings since he took office, right? It gets pretty bad. And now apparently there's some advocate groups, for refugees and migrants and whatnot, and that are saying that they're absolutely abhorrent conditions and they're being treated much worse now than they were during the Trump admin, right? Of course, when the White House reps, come out and are asked about these things, they have the most asinine answers. And then, of course, cringe Jean-Pierre has to come running to the rescue after. I got a little mashup of some short clips here, about 2 minutes total. Let's check this out, and then we'll talk about it.
Just following up on the border, I spent a long time covering immigration stuff during the Trump years. I never saw more damning quotes from immigration advocacy groups and human rights groups during the Trump years as I saw yesterday towards this administration. Just reading one to you, Eleanor Acer, who's one of the leading advocacy people, heads up a refugee group, called what the president did yesterday a humanitarian disgrace. And that was echoed across the board in literally scores of emails I got from every humanitarian group. What does the administration say to the overwhelming consensus from people who advocate on behalf of asylum seekers and refugees and migrants that what the president did yesterday was a humanitarian disgrace.
Well, obviously, we take a different view.
Address something that was asked about, that you, Michael, had asked about the lack of support that we have received. Look, I have, we've heard from mayors across the country as well who have supported the president's announcement yesterday. And so, for example, Mayor Todd Gloria, San Diego, California, the president's measures will help expedite legal pathways for orderly migration and increase funding to nonprofits doing life-saving work in our communities. That matters. Mayor of San Antonio, Texas, in lieu, and this is Texas, in lieu of much-needed congressional policy, as I've stated, which is so important, and he tweeted this, the president new action humanely addresses the influx of asylum seekers entering the U.S. Eric Adams, as Mayor Adams, who has been critical, right, of us, said it's an important positive step. And so, and I have a few more, the Denver mayor, the Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, and also Mayor Lightfoot.
That puts this president, who spent so much time on the campaign trail talking about how, how he wanted to be different than Donald Trump when it came to immigration issues. I mean, it just puts you guys in a really awkward place, doesn't it?
I have to say, Michael, I understand what you're saying, but I do take, I do take issue with comparing us to Donald Trump.
Right? So we got a different idea. We got a different opinion or outlook on that, buddy. You know what I mean? So that just explains it away. Out comes Cringe to call on him and say, I heard you ask him a question. I want to answer that, buddy, and start trying to push some buttons or anything. And just goes on to make a complete ass of herself. Basically, a bunch of Democrats, have told Joe, great job, and they back it. So, therefore, everything's A1. She went on to name absolutely nothing but leftist kooks, most of which are mayors of sanctuary cities that absolutely threw fits when they received small busloads of immigrants to their cities, right? So these people are all for open borders. Unless it comes to their town or their home, then they need to declare an emergency and they need your tax money sent to their state to help out. I mean, these people are absolute disgusting hypocrites. All right. But moving on. So we'll move on to California here. San Francisco now has announced that they are slowing the release of mugshots. Because racisms. Fuck, right? So they're actually going on to say that the mugshots overstates black and brown men's propensity towards violence, right? So you commit a crime and you're black or you're brown, we're going to have to hide that fact because we don't want people to treat you differently because that would be racisms. Right? I mean, what they are really trying to hide is, the whole thing right now. It's being pushed is, America's worst enemy or worst problem is white right-leaning domestic terrorism, right? And this undoes that argument. You know what I mean? And I love that people, like to run around and scream, that it's racisms that black men and brown men are in prison. But then when you bust out statistics, that's also racisms, right? I mean, then you're falling in Stefan Molyneux territory, who, if any of you know, removed after, over 1 billion downloads in a decade on YouTube. For being a white nationalist, all right? And if you look up his wiki, they've changed it since then to say that he perpetuates racism by using scientific facts and statistics. Fuck, you can't make this shit up, man, right? Good old California. And staying on that tip, all right, the old vampire Newsom has just come out and announced that the new budget that he's signing for California for the next fiscal year, $297 billion, right? And after the COVID thing, they absorbed the most money of any state in the union and then went on to claim that they had a surplus. Well, now that surplus is suddenly gone and they got a $22.5 billion deficit. the old vampire Newsom, calling it a modest shortfall, and that he's going to continue to spend to keep his promises to the illegals and, anyone else that fits a certain paradigm. Again, you cannot make this shit up. California is not a state anymore. It's its own world. Wow, world. All right, but you guys know the deal. Tell me I'm bullshitting. Argue with me in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Smell you later.
We're not against the Republicans. We're not against the Republicrats. We are against those MAGA thugs. Thugs.